You're listening to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, the show that proves no one stumbles upon success ever. With your host, Lou Need. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we deliver cold hard evidence behind the power of a robust morning routine. Get ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Looney Lewis, and today I have the honor of introducing a very special man to the show, Kiko Ellsworth. He is a phenomenal man, and you're going to hear a lot about his journey and the transformation and how his story can actually relate to how we need to grow, but kind of face our fears, like he did. So I'm going to let him take the floor and tell you about his background and his journey. So no further ado, Kiko, welcome to the show.
Lunid, thank you so much for having me. I just want to say greetings to everybody, blessings, wishing everybody love and peace and joy and strength and being the loving beings that we are. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being here. Where should I start? There's so much in life that we could go over.
Your journey here thus far and into what you're currently doing, working on.
Well, let me start with some broad strokes. I'm a Los Angeles native. Yeah. And how I grew up was I kind of grew up like a sort of a street kid and kind of identifying in that particular way and doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing growing up, and a bit of a womanizer. And then that I got into my marriage, fast forward into that. And I didn't know how to be in a relationship at all in my marriage. And I never felt like a man. And, it was just like school. I never had the examples that I needed. But when we finally, like me and my former wife had a completion ceremony, and we were co-parenting in the same house for a while, and we have a child together. And she, at that time, had a boyfriend. She asked me to give her my blessing to really give her heart to this man that she was seeing. And I said, yes, of course, I'm going to give you my blessing, because I really, at that point, was understanding that she was my divine sister first before anything else. And then she was my former wife. But as my divine sister, I love her. I want great things for her. I want her to be loved and romanced, even if it's not by me. And so we had a beautiful completion ceremony instead of a divorce. And on that magical day when we had that completion ceremony, I became a man. I entered manhood permanently. That's when everything, all the dots connected, all the lights came on, all the Christmas lights shined at the same time. Yeah. When I was giving her my blessing, it was like I was being blessed at the same time. I learned how to start loving myself as I was giving her the blessing of my love so she could actually receive love from someone else. And it just all started to click there. And that's when I really just started to be at my full healthy manhood.
Yeah. Interesting how that turned itself around, right?
Yeah.
It's
very
almost
unexpected.
It's like when you give, you receive. You can't give what you don't have.
Exactly. I think that's important for people to understand. And I don't think that at the time, she didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it or even understand it until I received what I was trying to give. And then I realized that saying is so true. It is impossible to give what you cannot receive. And it's impossible to expect someone to love us if they really do not really truly know how to love themselves.
Yeah.
If they're practicing self-destructive habits, or if they're doing things that are giving you sort of signals that they are not, even if they say they love you, it's something that loving the self is a learned practice in my experience. You
have a very interesting quote that says, once you have you have everything. So, right? It's right along the lines of you have to be filled first so you can feed other people. Once you are able to love yourself, then you can actually love other people. But until then, you cannot give what you don't have. It really is. It stands true. What I'd like for you to talk a little bit about, Kiko, is that self-sabotaging or those habits, self-destructive habits, you call them.
Yeah. What I was doing before. So I think from being unconscious, I got a little blower in the background here. I'm not sure if this is a little loud. Can you hear that blower a lot in the background? Because we're actually at the beach right now, and
Not
this
much.
guy just started. Okay, hopefully not too much. Some of the self-destructive habits that I was doing as a man, I know mainly one of the main things I was doing was I wasn't making like a conscious practice to really identify my emotions and to express what was really going on with me. It was a muscle that had been atrophied, that wasn't being exercised, and I didn't think it was important. And in that sort of disconnection, I was really destroying myself, because the emotions are a big part of men and women. And if we don't know if we're in denial of our emotions, or that we are sensitive, or that we are feeling hurt, or we're not willing to navigate these areas that are painful, then because those things are painful, we start this sort of self-destructive process that seems like it's normal. It seems like it's normal to behave in certain ways just from ignoring our emotions or our pains, and then not learning how to express what's really going on with us. So that would be one of the main things that's obvious, is that, when I was really destructive, I was a womanizer. I was just giving my sort of body intimately and just sharing that connection sort of casually with other women. And that was really, really self-destructive. And right now I'm so single and not even ready to mingle. Like, my relationship that I'm developing and going really deep in is of course, first myself and the creator that created me. And then it's my relationship with my daughter, who's sitting right here, right next to me. Like, I'm really learning how to be an even more magnificent father, and really how to evoke those qualities, and really how to show up in a relation with my daughter in a healthy way, so she knows what a healthy relationship feels like from her father, and so I'm still learning more and more and more. But I'm really investing, more time and more presence, and how to show up better with my daughter, and also with my former wife, her mom.
Right.
And I'm still investing in those relationships. And then my friendships, friendships with men and women, and my family. And I've been healing those relationships.
How do you foster those relationships, especially as a male working with women and in your own personal lives? What are some tips to foster these healthy relationships you mentioned?
Okay, so let me start with like one of the core relationships with the parental relationships. Everyone has a different relationship with their parents, and there's different damage and trauma that's almost inevitably to happen. And I had a tumultuous relationship with my dad for over 30 years. And long story short, I created 100% peace with my dad, 100% peace from the past from my dad. It took a long time, but we got there. And it's so great just to have that loving relationship with my dad, because as soon as I was able to do that and clear that peace and create that peace with my father, I was able to connect with my daughter at a deeper level. And then my daughter was able to connect with grandpa. And I was obviously able to connect with him. It just cleared the channel.
Right.
So those core relationships of mother and father, it may seem like we may not need them, or we may not need to clear certain things, even if they're not around, or even if they don't want to clear, or if they're not in the consciousness to be able to create peace with you. We can do the work to do as much as we can to create peace from within us towards that relationship. And I just think that work has to be done as much as possible. And then what happen from there with regards to the other person. But we need to do the best that we can to create peace and balance and harmony with that relationship.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in that point, because I grew up with my dad not being in my life, but I struggled to get into a healthy relationship. And it was the minute I decided to build my relationship with my dad, heal that relationship, that doorway that you're talking about did open up for me. So yes, it does go back to those core rooted relationships, because those are the first organizations we're part of. Right? And if we can't succeed in them, then it's very hard to succeed outside of them, with partners, with friends, because then we get to choose those people.
Exactly. So yeah, absolutely. And then as far as the next core sort of relationship that a lot of us experience is the romantic relationship, right? That romantic partner, whether woman or a man, that partner, that creative partner. So a few things that really work for me, which is like Zen, our daughter's mother, I'll do anything for her. She's not like a classic ex for me. She is beyond my best friend. She's my soulmate, best friend, perfect creative partner. We just happen to have completed the phase of the romantic part. So we're not in the marriage phase anymore, but our relationship has still been evolving. But what works with that is a mentor had said to me, Kiko, it's divinity before humanity. And so how that really mapped across in relationships many years later is that, we all have a divine relationship before we have a human relationship, is the way I actually started to have that work for me. And, our divine relationship, when I look at, our daughter's mother, is that she's my divine sister first. Lunid, you are my divine sister first. That's why I can say, I love you.
Right.
I love you. You know what I'm saying? My daughter is my divine sister first. I tell her all the time, she's my divine sister first. And so when it comes to these core relationships, whether you be a woman with a man or a man with a woman or whatever the case may be, I think it's imperative that we create this. It's a very default sort of consciousness of the romance. We have to penetrate beneath that and go through that, see through all the romance and the attraction, and really penetrate to a connection into you, so you can see the love that you have for the soul being right there. That is your divine sibling. Like Lunid, like say, for example, I'll say, I love you, Lunid. I love you as my divine sister. And I'm seeing you from a soul perspective. Like I want you to incarnate it as a soulful being here in your body. I want you to fulfill your divine life mission. Like I'm just clear that we all came here for some sort of mission to fulfill our soul. Right. And so I know that you did as well, too. And as that, I'm speaking to that side of you. Like, I want you to fulfill your mission as a soul being incarnated here in your body. And from that place, I say, I love you. You see what I'm saying? First. And so I think if we start to sort of put the priorities first, like divinity before humanity, and really see the divinity first and not just the humanity, we'll have a better perspective in how to really behave in more of a balanced, holistic way towards one another.
That's well put. I really love that. Looking at the human being for the divine soul, the pure human that they are versus all the flaws, all the crap, the gunk that is built up and put up on top of that. And a lot of it is emotional. A lot of it is limiting beliefs that were passed on by others. But being able to kind of go look through that BS, put the person in a different light. It's almost like I always tell my husband, like, I see you for the soul that you are. I see people for the soul that they are, the where they're going. It has nothing to do with where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about this is that it will not work unless, like another mentor had said, there's a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase basically. He says, but it pretty much applies to this in broad strokes. So it goes like this. It says, man doesn't intend to be corrupt, but his lack of investing in his morals and his values, his roots are just not deep enough. So when the winds of corruption blow upon him, he gets uprooted like basically a dry leaf and gets blown along with it. So what I'm saying is we have to invest daily in these concepts that are true to us. When I talk about divinity before humanity, I didn't really apply it to my former wife until about 4 or 5 years later. But through those 4 or 5 years, I was really ingesting that and letting that marinate within me and seeing how that really applied. Like I had a genuine desire to truly see the divinity in just life. So it's not just going to work for you. You know what I'm saying? But it has to be something. If that were a concept that someone wanted to take on, it has to be something that you have a pure heart with, that you're doing it just because it's the right thing to do, not because you want to get somebody to love you or make the relationship work in a particular way that you want, but just because it's the right thing. Like, I'm not trying to get back with my baby's mother, and I genuinely just want to love her because it's the right choice to do. I just genuinely feel that.
Yeah. And do you teach some of this in the safety and empowerment course that you have for females?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this pretty much undergirds pretty much all the teachings that I have, whether I'm doing like the men's evolution coaching or the high performance love and lifestyle coaching, or the courses for women's safety and power. that really undergirds everything, because everything is a relation, right? We relate to everything, whether it be us relating here on your podcast, or my relation to my daughter, or my relation to self, my creator, or my relation to the car that I'm sitting in right now. We relate to everything. So everything is a relation.
Yeah.
So, it's all about how we choose to relate to things.
Yeah. And tell me about the marketing piece of it. How can one get in alignment to attract the right client or the right customers into, because what you give out is what is coming in, right? So how do you attract the ideal client?
Are you're talking about anybody personally attracting, like if they're a coaching, or are you talking about me personally?
Just what that tactic is like for you and how others can apply it.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, first thing is for me is it's really doing the work on being clear about who I am.
Yeah.
Because only from that place can you attract the ideal client to the ideal person that you are. But if we're not doing the work to really go deep as far as what is our soul's mission, that who we truly are and what's the work we truly want to do, then if we're not doing that true soul work, if we're not aligned with that, then we're never going to have the ideal client, because we're not doing the true work from who we truly are. First, we have to continually, daily, momentarily, like do the soul work and really revealing to ourselves, like, who am I? And that's just a continual process, right? Like, am I speaking my truth? Am I speaking from my depth, my power, my authenticity? Am I passionate? Am I doing what my soul came here to do? Like, and once we're at least on that path, from that place, then we can do what we are supposed to be doing. And then from there, we can start creating our ideal client, and that's a process of just alignment. And that takes its own time. There's no timeline for that. You can't rush that sort of process, because we each have to clear different parts of the ego or trauma or illusion or lies away so we can get to the truth of who we are. So, but the more that we get to be clear about who we are, from that place, we can really start to build a more authentic and aligned business.
Well put. And so that deep work, that daily work would actually encompass and start in the morning, like your morning routine. How do you prime yourself? How do you set yourself up for success for just that day? Because that day is going to turn into a week, and in a week into months, and then, 10 years later, and you are the results of your habits. You know what I mean? That's
so true. Absolutely.
So tell us about your morning ritual. How do you get up, dress up, and show up?
Yeah, it always changes. I just want to say that we have rituals and stuff like that, but there's certain aspects, at least my experience, that they always grow, change, and evolve. And then there's cycles, certain things repeat. So like for me, I love to get up before the sunrise if possible, but I definitely like to make sure that I get enough rest. I have to get enough rest. And before I get up, I like to make sure that I go to sleep properly, because for me, going to sleep properly sets me up for the next day.
Yeah.
So like I really start like back the night before, even the afternoon before, thinking about my night to make sure that I'm like thinking about my night and planning for my night. Because if I can strategically plan for a good night and how I'm going to bed, then that really sets me up well for how I get up. So my night before, I'm literally planning for my next day. I'm either setting my intentions. I'm looking at, my goals, my year-long goals, my 90-day goals, my 30-day goals, my weekly goals. And then I'm just staying aligned with those. And then I'm setting, okay, what's most appropriate for the objective and the things that I need to accomplish for tomorrow. I write those down the night before. And then, and when I get up, drink some water, do my breath work. And then I, make my bed every single day, no matter what. And except sometimes when my daughter sleeps in my bed, I'm like, okay, she sleeps a little longer, so I get thrown off a little bit with that. So, but when I sleep in my bed alone, then I make my bed, and then I go over my goals again, and then I just refine them and put them in order. I do my yoga, I drink my water, I do my vitamins and things like that. I do my meditation, breath work, those practices, and so that's how I basically start my day. And then I have my objectives, and then I go from there. And then there's a certain part that's flexible as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that you covered the basics. There's meditation in there. hydrating in the small act of just making your bed, you know? Like, what does that do for you? Because I know there are tons of different benefits for it.
Man, you know, for me, there's a saying that just resonates constantly. It's like, you can't run a Fortune 500 company if you can't even run your house. You can't. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think the basics of that is making your bed, run your house, wash your dishes. I love washing my dishes before I go to bed. You know, I like waking up to a clean, organized house. And there has to be a certain amount of order. You can't build anything from chaos.
Right.
You know, you can truly build when there's order and harmony and balance. And then when you're done building, then you create chaos and then you rebuild again. Then you organize and order again. But each day there has to be a certain amount of order, you know, so I can build from that foundation. So making my bed is the beginning of that, is the start of that order.
I totally agree with you. Cleanliness or just clutter just kind of indicates if there's clutter around you, then your mind is also cluttered.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
It's a good indication of that. So a lot about setting habits and good habits is setting up your environment for success. And that entails what you just talked about, making your bed, cleaning the dishes, making sure your house is clean. So you can just jump right into work, because you don't want to spend your primal hours in the morning cleaning, doing mundane things when you can actually be focused, because that's when your energy, you're at the alpha stage, right? And you are at your prime energy. Your creativity is at its highest during this time in the morning. And, you know, you don't want to spend your time trying to decide what to wear. Like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, they wear the same things because they don't want to waste their willpower in the morning trying to figure that out.
Exactly. And we're going to come full circle right now, too, because what we're talking about is discipline, right? We're talking about a particular sort of discipline. And with discipline is a very wonderful way of self-love. It's a wonderful version of self-love, because when we're disciplined with things like this, that's one way of how we're actually loving ourselves and creating the space and creating an environment where we can flow, where we can create, where we can thrive.
I like the correlation. I like how you did bring it back home with that, because we started with self-love, and then we just broke it down in the 20 minutes of how you can actually attain it. What are the things you can do to get that self-love? And it's a morning routine. It's actually holding yourself accountable. It's knowing that you are worth it to continue with it, to proceed with building those disciplines and principles to actually get you to thrive and reach your higher self. So, well put.
Absolutely.
Well put. So, tell us, how can we connect with you?
On Instagram, you know, you can link with me on there, and everything is linked from there. My website, the teachings, classes, coaching, all that stuff. My Instagram is Kiko Ellsworth with 2 L's.
Excellent. I will put that on the show notes. Kiko, I want to thank you so much for your time and energy today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I wish we would have had longer. Maybe we'll do it again sometime, my sister. I appreciate you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, morning enthusiasts, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you love the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes or Google Play. While you're at it, tell a friend about the show. Be sure to visit bestmorningroutineever.com and our Facebook group to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic free bonus content. Until next time.